All right, Shalom Israel, Shalom. Y'all about some outside Rakatham to the brothers, y'all tomorrow talking about some outside of the sisters. We got the ISUPK, the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, established in 1969, going west on the 25th Street. We are led by Commander Jimmy Yana. We coming live to you right now from the Twin Cities, ISUPK Minnesota School. Whatever region that you're in, get in contact with the school nearest you. We just had one high holy convocation, the memorial of the blowing of the trumpets. We got the Day of Atonement coming up next Wednesday at sundown to Thursday at sundown.
Right.
Follow the protocols and the guidelines that the school had given you. If you're pregnant, you're absolved. If you're a child of, I don't know what the cutoff age is. I think a lot of that might be circumstantial, depending on their needs.
12, 13.
So normally about 12 or 13 or up, they might be subjected to observe this holiday or high holy day also. Sorry.
If you're elderly, to not take medication.
I was gonna get that.
Okay, I understood.
Also, if you're elderly, or if you have medications that you need to take that, if otherwise you did not take, could be detrimental to your health. Certainly, you're absolved from that also.
Mm-hmm.
But get in contact with the school, find out what the requirements are, what the protocols are, where if they're gonna, I mean, it's like, they're gonna have a class on it, so you want to be in attendance for that also, especially while you're going through this, to gain that, to feed off the strength of the other brothers and sisters around you too, if you're able to. It's a rough thing to go through this alone if you haven't done it before, and especially if you're living in a world that's surrounded by people that won't observe it, that don't observe it, don't acknowledge it, and they're doing, this, that, and third right in front of you while you're abstaining from food and drinks. And if you can overcome this, you got the discipline to overcome that. That'll strengthen you for, to be disciplined all across the board. So welcome to Tuesday's Brotherhood class, as always with the UPK. And today we're going to talk about perfecting brotherhood and sisterhood, because it doesn't just come down to the men; it also deals with the sisters. So a lot of times when you hear scriptures that talk about brethren, brotherhood, it invokes sisterhood also. It covers sisterhood also. The first one I always love to go to is Zephaniah 2:1. This is something that everybody, a lot of people talk about unity camps, or why can't we all just get along? Why is there so much division? Blah blah blah. But they don't really understand the full concept of brotherhood, of actually coming together with your people, despite all the differences between us and the disagreements that we're gonna have, whether it's on social media or right in your face. If you've seen some of the early clips, and I'm talking, for me, I'm saying early, for these brothers, early clips are something a little bit different. But in my consideration, if you've seen some clips from like 2012, 2013, when the headquarters school in Philly was really getting it in on the streets. Nigerians going wild, Africans going wild, and everybody's feathers getting ruffled, and why they're excluded from our culture and what pertains to our history, our records, and our responsibility, and the standard that the Most High had set for us to keep, and the standard that our brothers, our forefathers, had followed. Again, breathing life into the culture that was lost to us, stolen from us,
right,
beat, raped, robbed, and murdered out of us.
Right.
A lot of people don't have that, the genuine and sincere understanding and concept and practice of brotherhood. It's okay to have an off if it's legit. Don't go nitpicking and searching for something that you don't like about another brother or sister and try to pick that out and turn a mountain, or turn a molehill into a mountain. It's, we are a, how would I say it? We're kind of a friction-based people. And when we're in such a disarray as we are now, it's going to fuel that fire even faster. The contention that we have amongst one another, it it sparks such dramatic reactions that, I mean, they go from 0 to 100 like instantly over very small things.
Right.
But when you look at the oppression and you look at the behavioral reset and the brainwashing that we've been placed with in under this captivity, under this subjection by this oppressor, by these devils, we're mimicking how they feel about us to one another. So as it explains in Zephaniah 2:1, and this is in the Old Testament, you know, you got a lot of Old Testament Israelites out there that again, they a lot, damn near all of them talk about unity and trying to come together, but they don't practice it. They don't live it. They don't live and breathe it. We've got children that were taken from our homes, not only with the border and the deportation and how that affected their families, being separated from their families, being locked in cages, completely separated from their families. I know that one picture went viral where that one sister was breastfeeding her child through the fence. That's not how this world should look. Under their captivity, though, under their rulership, that's how this is going to continue to look. We got brothers that are locked up by the millions. If you look at the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian populations, the numbers of their men and women that are incarcerated, albeit true or false charges, are at a huge preponderance versus the population that we actually have in this country. Now you've got an almost equal in some demographics, an almost equal to overwhelming number of their own people, their own kind, so-called Edomites. Or it's like, no, they are Edomites, so-called Caucasians, so-called white men, the devil that the Bible speaks of. Right. They have high record numbers in the prison population also, but they also are the overwhelming majority of the country. So that really wouldn't be too surprising. If you offset the statistics there, like proportionately, that's not surprising that they would have that many people versus their population, where we have some, in a lot of cases, more than those numbers with a much, much, much smaller population. So while we're faced with all this division and cruelty, and then bringing that back home to one another, all these different ideologies and philosophies that make people feel good, seduce them with often, and in a lot of cases, often in a lot of those communities, drugs, right? You know, just to dumb you down a little bit and make you more susceptible to what they're trying to kick. And again, it feels good. It feels good. Everybody, I want peace and love too, sir. So like, I want peace and love too. I want everybody to go home to a nice quiet house, a nice quiet neighborhood. They ain't gotta hear no gunshots at night. They ain't gotta hear no ambulances and cop cars zooming by. Ain't nobody trying to break into your car. Ain't nobody trying to break into your house. Ain't nobody trying to ride on the streets, you know, breaking into the corner stores and the mom and pop shops right next to you. I want that too. Under this kingdom, though, we are not going to see that. The only way that, well, honestly, there never would be a way that they could ever achieve that level of peace without, how do I say it? That would be, again, sincere. They do a lot of things for face value that feed into a perception for the people. Right. When in real life, it's the complete opposite. Right. So again, concerning our people, so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, the Israelites that the Bible's talking about, when it comes down to our governance and what we are supposed to abide by, the laws, statutes, commandments, and that moral compass that we are outlined with, you need to take it serious. You got a lot of people bitching and moaning about dates and times, and I understand that's an important part in reconstructing a history that we've been distant from for a long time. Right. I get that. they want to base it off the moon cycles or old calendars. Their understanding of how the biblical text works when it comes to dates and times. That's all well and good. This is not the time to be bickering about that.
Right.
Just to dumb it down for everybody, especially those that hate the truth. Commanding General Yohana said yesterday was when we celebrate the memorial of the blowing of the trumpets.
Right.
That's the date that was set for the nation of Israel
Right.
by the leader of Israel. So that's what we follow. If you have a different philosophy or understanding on when that date and time was correctly supposed to be placed, like on the Sabbaths, people want to constantly trip over when the actual Sabbath is.
Right.
Giving a complete false pretense that we're worshiping Saturn, Saturnalia, Saturday, blah, blah, blah,
right.
thinking that's why we're doing it. Just because that day, we went off numbered days. We didn't go off on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We went off of the first day, the second day, the third day of that month.
Right. Yeah.
It just so happens in modern culture, and even if you take, I don't know when the Gregorian calendar was started or even the one before that, but within the past couple thousand years, when they had set that standard, they named these days. Who cares?
So if I may, also too, when you learn, like if you study Lashon Kodash,
right,
what you are going to realize as far as the numbers in Hebrew, like Akkad, Shanya, Shasha, all these different numbers, right? There's not a Hebrew word specifically for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It's called day 1, 2, 3. And then when it comes to the month, it's month 1, 2, 3. All right. And there's a way to say it with the numbers that are in Hebrew.
Right.
And once again, we calculate it based on the sun, not the sun, but the moon. All right. And we do not, base it off like, because we're in modern times, we have to, say, the Day of Atonement is on the 15th, which is next Wednesday. All right. But you would say next Wednesday in the Hebrew, which is, you got Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So that'll be the 4th day. All right. So I'm saying the 4th day of the week. Okay. That's how you would do it. So for those out there that thinking that we are celebrating a God on that day, the only God that we are celebrating is Yahweh.
That's right.
That's it.
That's right.
That's all. That's who we are celebrating. The Most High Power. That's it. Yahweh, our power. That's the only one that we are celebrating. We are not celebrating anything else but what He has gave us, and we are acknowledging it, and we are giving Him thanks always. All right. So it's a lot.
Damn right. No, Kawhi said that's a perfect point too, because again, a lot of people are going to take that focus on the names of the days, on the names of the month, when the actual calendar year is supposed to be. This is not the time to be overly concerned with that.
Mm-hmm.
If you have some substantial proof, by all means, get in contact with the school near you, or even better yet, if you want to shout your all your wisdom and knowledge to the whole world, call them Across the Line Radio every Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
If you email them ahead of time at, I believe it's Cross the Line Radio at Gmail?
Yeah, I want to say gmail.com.
At gmail.com. It's like if you go to crosstheline.com, I believe that's the website. It's like I just pay attention to the radio show.
Yeah.
But if you contact them ahead of time, you can actually have a structured debate with them.
Mm-hmm.
If you're scared, you're going to use the excuse, I don't want to get talked over. I don't want to get talked to. I want to have a conversation. I want to have a dialogue. Knowing the whole time you are going to try to fuck up because you're already anticipating the confrontation. If you've seen the last couple of debates that they've had and even sit downs and dialogues that they've had, it's been very civil. That's what we were trained to do also. Now, we can bang it out too. We ain't got no problem with that. We also know how to deal with our brothers and our sisters. We can have a civil conversation. It can be peaceful and chill and relax. It ain't got to be all this contentious, banging, uh, battle of wits. It ain't got to be that deep. It ain't got to get that crazy.
Right.
But if you do have something you want to bring to the table, contact the school nearest you. Bring it to them if you're in that city, or bring it to the larger platform like Cross the Line Radio.
Right.
I'm sure they would be more than happy. It's like your cat and Kataza, I'm sure would be more than happy to debate some of those topics. Adamon's historic background is like we study too. Brothers can read books too.
Mm-hmm.
But again, these are not the times to be bickering over that. These are the times to come together as people.
Right.
And during those times when we gather together, we can talk about some of these issues that'll bring clarification if there is something wrong.
Right.
We follow in the scripture, though. We follow in the Bible. We follow in the culture of our
right.
people. And again, we're bringing back that history from thousands of years ago to a very tumultuous day.
There you go. That's right.
And it's a hard thing to do when you got so many people that are destroyed and broken.
Right.
If you look at the damage that this system and society has done, even if you take it from the Reagan and Nixon era, but we know that we can go back to 20s with Black Wall Street. We know we can go back to the 1880s and 90s when so-called emancipation had kicked in. We know we can go back to the early 1800s, 1700s, 1600s, 1500s, 1400s, and see a recurring pattern and a consistent, abysmal treatment of a certain group of people. Now, conquerors are going to conquer anybody that comes in their path. That's understandable. You get into it with a nation, you lose to them, you become their servants. Or they just, kill everybody. Okay, I get that. You didn't have to use up baby's alligator bait. You didn't have to sabotage our blankets with smallpox. You didn't have to hang our sisters by one leg while they was pregnant, rip their children from their guts, and kick them across the ground.
Right.
You didn't have to do that. That's different than servitude. That's different than they want to keep on talking about how Native Indians had Native Indians as slaves.
No.
And natives had blacks as slaves.
Right.
If you look at the dichotomy between those, it did happen. Historically, it did happen, but not the way that they say. The inference that they give about slavery, it was still more servitude because those tribes that were battling other tribes that took over other tribes, they didn't make those other tribes stop speaking their tribal tongue, lose their heritage. When they would take the black slaves, they brought them into the fold more often than actually oppressing them. Of course, you got sellouts of every kind across every board. So
when I said that's false, when I'm talking about it's like as a whole, we was not oppressing each other. Like you said, we had sellouts. To this day, we have sellouts to this day.
Absolutely.
We got people who bring us, they seduce us, deceive us, and bring us into the hands of our oppressor, even when they are our own. So absolutely, you're right about that, man. Good night.
And this is what the UPK is established for.
Right.
This is why Commanding General Yana did not drop his sword.
That's right.
And did not let go when everybody else ran for cover. We've experienced some very traumatic events as individuals. The healing process, I don't want to put this over the focus on one God.
Right.
But the healing process, especially in the mindset that a lot of us are in, the healing process is going to start with brotherhood. It's going to start with sisterhood. To get animosity off of us.
Right.
To get that fear of one another off of us. I don't care how tough you are. You know that there's somebody else out there with a gun. That's why you carrying a gun the way you do. That's
Right.
why you shooting everybody first. You know that could easily happen to you. To get that contention and all that the tension between us.
Right.
To get that to calm down so that we can relax. You ain't gotta let your guard down necessarily, but you ain't gotta always be so brash around your own people.
Right.
But if you look at, again, our history, which is damn near what got us in the condition that we are in, we are so peaceful and we are so loving and we are so accommodating to a fault.
Right.
Our brothers from the tribes of Gad signed over, 170 some odd peace treaties.
I mean, some say over 130 treaties, but some say it's probably a lot more than just 100.
I heard 5.
Just 5 treaties?
500.
Oh, God, there you go. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. It's like that. Don't quote me on that. I can't remember where I heard that from, but I remember catching the class of the show where I thought somebody had dropped like 500 something, which wouldn't be unrealistic. We've got a long history with them compromising our land and us negotiating with them.
Right.
I mean, they've been here since the 15th century.
Right.
They had hundreds of years to plot and maneuver and twist and skew.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't have to overrun us. We said, hey, yeah, come on in. Under the guise of peace and that same thing that everybody's complaining about and wetting their pants over now, it should be peace and love. Everybody should love everybody. Go tell that to Christopher Columbus.
Right.
Go tell that shit to George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. Don't tell that to our brothers and sisters who got stabbed in the back by your own people. And then those of our own people that want to try to impress that same sentiment onto us. Shut up.
Right.
Stand down.
Right.
That's not to be an insult to you, but you're not equipped for what's to come. If you think that this is the normal, this is how it should be, or this is just the world we got, so we got to deal with it, you're crazy.
Right.
And if you think that this is not gonna end, you're dumb. Or you're content with being ignorant to it. This kingdom has to fall to save the earth,
right?
To save every living soul on earth. This kingdom has to fall. That third world war needs to come about. Now, hey, Lord allow Yahweh shall come back tonight, prevent all that from happening, and set things straight like that.
Right.
And if you think that's not going to come with, a little bit of blood, a couple people shedding tears, a couple screams in the night, you're not equipped to deal with life. Life is warfare.
That's right.
But between our people, it ain't always got to be that bad. We're competitive, we're aggressive, we're masculine, we're forthright, and sometimes spontaneous with it. But to heal the problems that are in our communities, it's going to start with brotherhood.
That's right.
Not everybody's going to understand the laws.
Right.
Not everybody's going to understand the monolithic nature of our culture and our power. But brotherhood is something that we can relate on. Sisterhood is a gap that we can bridge. So again, Zephaniah 2:1 tells us to gather yourselves together. Yea, gather together, O nation not preside. Everybody else done took a bite of us. Everybody. Every other nation has taken advantage of us. And they've prospered off of it. They send their kids to college off of your blunt wrap money, man.
Right.
off your cigarettes, off your drug use, off the prostitution, off the strip clubs, off the alcoholism, off the gun violence. They send their kids to Ivy League colleges. Harvard, Yale, Stanford, Brown.
Right.
Constitution said all man was created equal. Huh? Yeah.
So it's like I want to say something that Officer Tarak has said a long time ago during one of our camp speakings, some months ago. He said like he was speaking about the the hates what is it called now? Stop the Asian Hate Bill, right? He said, when it comes to us and them, when it comes to them, it comes to us. Their children go to Yale, our children go to jail. All right. And a lot of people don't understand that. Look, we don't get the opportunities that most people get because we are not desired. And that's what the brother Officer Mugabar is bringing out. We are not a people that are desired. And there's a reason for it. It's more than just your skin color. All right. It's more beyond your melanin and your knowledge and things of that sort. You gotta understand, you have to ask yourself, who are you?
Right.
You're not African American.
Right.
You're not Puerto Rican. You're not, you're not Guatemalan. Right. You're not a native Indian. You feel me? You're not none of those things, man, that you call yourself. You're not just human. Some people would just say, I'm just human as if it's a race.
Right.
Yes, I mean, it's a human race, but it's not a nationality.
Right.
That's two different things. But what you are, if you are a so-called Black, Hispanic, or Native American, you are truly an Israelite. And your father, who is the progenitor of us all, his name is Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, which is why you are called the Israelites. That's what you are. And there's 12 tribes with the nation Israel. All right? And so what the brother is bringing out is very, very much important. And it's very solid because that's what we lack. We lack understanding. If you read Hosea 4 and was it 4 and 12? Hosea 4 and 12, when it says that my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, that's us. We are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. It's not the knowledge of the conspiracies, the pineal gland, chakras. It's the lack of knowledge of what the Most High has gave us, which is the law, statutes, and commandments. That's what we lack. And when you don't have the law, statutes, and commandments, what do you have? You have no guidance. You have no morality. You have no discipline. There's no order. You feel me? There's nothing decent about you. Okay? You are lost. You are very much dark. There's no light inside of you. You are filthy and disgusting.
Right.
Salaki.
No, down. Like, hey, Salaki, give it up. Give it up for the brother. I mean, the points he was touching on are, it's an aspect of life that we're missing. Because again, we wanna think about chakras and your pineal gland and
third eye, whatever.
Third eye, all that.
Yeah,
all that.
Bullshit. Rocks.
Over what's gonna actually heal the people, our people, and fix the conditions that, even if we want to take it off just Israel and consider the whole human race. Mm-hmm. The system that's in place right now has destroyed everybody. They had put variance between everybody, even within their own nations, letting them govern themselves under their morality, under their moral compass. But this earth needs to be governed by this little thing right here.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody who has used this and manipulated it, they gained off of it. But look at how they did it. Words as smooth as butter, but a sword is in their hand.
Psalms 55 and 21. Psalms 55, 20 through 21.
They talk about the Bible as if it's that warm, fuzzy, feel good sensation And in reality, they raping your kids.
Right.
They having sex with your wife.
Right.
They stealing from your grandma.
Right.
But they present this luxurious and lavish and holy and principally based lifestyle that again looks good. It looks obtainable to people that don't have it. Those $5 billion private jets.
Right.
Those 100-acre estates. When they got more than a little money to fix the issues that are in these communities. Shouldn't be one homeless man, woman, and child on the streets. I don't care what background you got. So like
with all the money that America has,
right.
just alone,
right.
All the money that America has alone, they have, I forget the exact amount, but they have what is called trillions of dollars. If there is trillions of dollars circulating in the U.S., how is there such thing as homeless people?
At all.
I'm gonna let you know, when it comes to the kingdom, there's gonna be a 360. There's gonna be nothing like that. See what I'm saying? Now, you are gonna have people who are gonna be at the bottom. All right? And the reason why they are gonna be at the bottom is because of the choices that they made in this life.
Okay.
And when the new life comes, which is the kingdom, things are gonna be different. But to be realistic, there would be no such thing as homelessness with all the money that's circling around the earth. It lets you know that somebody is greedy, and because of that greed, someone is lacking that resource.
Right.
Now, money doesn't fix all your problems, but it does fix a problem, or two or three, maybe. But with all the greed that's going on in the earth, no one else is able to survive and have a home or place to sleep. Now, also, too, think about the time of Yahushua. Yahushua, when he was around that time, there was money circulating. There was money going around. You have to ask yourself, who were rich around that time? Now, I'll let you figure that out on your own. And once you do, ask yourself, how come Yahushua, who the world calls Jesus Christ ignorantly, how come he did not have a home? Because there's a precept that speaks about how he did not have a home, but the foxes and the other animals did. I'm paraphrasing, of course. How come the Son of Man did not have a home, but the animals did? And he was the one that was changing the world, literally, day by day. From the day that he was born up until his death, he was changing the world. Even when people were trying to persecute him, he was still changing the world.
Right.
So how come this man didn't have a home? Yahushua was homeless, if you do not know. He would be what is considered to be a bum to most people.
Right.
All right? So that's something that we have to put into perspective and understand. It's like,
no, you dead on point.
All right.
And like Adam just said, like one of the last words, perspective. That's something that a lot of people lack and they don't want to face. They're too comfortable with everything that's being fed to them right now.
Right.
They're living in the here and now, that YOLO lifestyle. And that's, you're being selfish.
Right.
Again, there's no free will. There's your will. And that invokes selfishness. Because that tells you can sleep with whoever. You can eat whatever. You can do whatever drug. You can commit whatever crime. And then, everybody that wants to talk about equality and everybody should love everybody in unity. All right, what about the pedophiles? Do we give unity to them? Are we supposed to love them? They just got done raping your infant. I don't know if y'all know this about some of these monsters out there, but they will rape your infant, your toddler, not just your teenage child, your infants, your toddlers. They do this too. Human trafficking is a real thing. Now, are we supposed to let bygones be bygones and expect them to just drop everything that they're doing and stop making their money and stop living the life that they wanted to? Because we got free will, right? So why not? Where's the consideration for them? they're not going to give up their position of power. Just like the presidents of any country are not going to want to give up their position of power. Just like those influential politicians and celebrities and musicians and athletes all over the world, they're not going to want to give up that position of power and influence. If it goes, even if it's to follow the laws and statutes and commandments, even if it's to follow the Most High, because it's going to contradict their will, which is what everybody would interpret as free will. Their own selfishness is going to be paramount over the law, statute, and what's right. The law, statute, commandments, this is what is right. This will fix the ailments on earth.
Right.
But since the earth, how would I say, since we are a nation not desired by the earth, our focus is on us first. We'll deal with them when we get to them. If I could continue in Zephaniah.
Come.
Where'd it go? Let me get this back up real quick. Continue in Zephaniah 2:1, and don't just stop there. You go all the way to 3 just for this point. So verse 1, gather yourselves together. Yea, gather together, O nation not desired. That's a concept that we need to embed in our minds. Everybody else hates you, man. They're going to take advantage of you. They're going to lie to you. They're going to cheat you. And they've trained us to do the exact same thing. If you look at the way that we treat each other, in the same spirit, it's exactly how the other nations treat us, especially our oppressor. Exactly. Now, we do it with different mechanisms. We do it with different words and languages and blah, blah, blah. But in the spirit, we treat each other the exact same that they've taught us to treat us, because that's how they treated us. In Obadiah chapter 1, verse 10, it talks about this, for thy violence against thy brother Jacob.
That's right.
Talking about Esau. This is talking about the nation of Edom. And thy violence against thy brother Jacob, who is the progenitor of the Israelites. It's not for no reason that there needs to be an overthrowing of this kingdom. There's not for no reason that we need a separation from these people. We need to gather together because we that nation that desire. Because of that violence towards our forefathers that we've been expressing to one another. Verse 2, before the decree bring forth. Now that's something that might go over some people's heads. Before, and that's basically before the kingdom come, before Yahweh Shai has to return. Before that, to invoke that, we need to come together. And we need to hash out our differences. Everybody wants peace on earth. Let's start by gathering together. Let's at least kick it off there. Come to the Passover, man. We got cookouts happening every month.
Right.
Starting from I think July was the fire weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And in June was oh no, it started off in June. June, July. Yeah, July, August.
You said July.
I went backwards, didn't I? It's July.
July.
Better than that. I normally know my pagan gods better than that. Sorry, July, my fault. It started in July with the fire weekend. August in New York. September, it's not Vegas. Texas.
Texas actually October, so just not one in September.
I think it's Vegas.
Vegas actually November. Yep.
Vegas is November.
And December is Florida. Yep. So in September there was none. I could double check. As far as I know.
East Coast, West Coast, down south. All right, so maybe we skip September. Give us a break for a second. All the traveling around that brothers and sisters got to do it. We wish we could do more of that more freely. Some of our slaveries hold us back from financial obligations. In the kingdom, it ain't gonna be like that. We'll be able to move fluid, back and forth. Yeah. It's gonna be okay.
It was nothing in September at all.
All right, so yeah, so July was Chicago, August New York, October Texas, November. So October 7th through the 10th is going to be in Texas. November 11th through the 14th, Las Vegas. December 2nd through the 6th in Florida. So if you're in any of those areas, you're able to make it. Sit down at the table with your brothers, man. Sit down at the table with your sisters. Get to know them. Stop judging what you see off of YouTube or social media on Facebook. Get to know them in real life. Because you got a lot of people from the outside looking in talking shit about Paul. Talking shit about Yahushua. Judging these brothers without having known these brothers. Now, you can say the same shit for us.
Right.
Right. No sweat.
Right.
We live the spirit that these brothers taught. The same spirit that they had. That's why we keep on stressing the sincerity behind Zephaniah 2:1, for example. Gather together, O nation, not desire.
Right.
Let's stop slitting each other's throats for once, and maybe see how that benefits the community. Maybe if we're not killing each other, maybe something positive could come out of this. It's just a thought. It's just a harebrained, crazy idea from, this old book that some, probably, whack job made, got a bunch of scholars together and broke down, old records and compiled it together in this, nicely organized, little documentation, and now everybody just going batshit crazy. I don't know what to tell you. We just reading the Bible, though, and it's affecting people's lives,
right,
for the better.
That's right.
Christian and Catholic Church, they reading the Bible too, and it's affecting people's lives negatively. And I'm not talking about the one or two people that have a good lifestyle, that are living good and making money and living peacefully and just spreading joy and love throughout the earth.
Right.
And, Santa Claus and Thanksgiving up the ass, slacking. Before I go too far, just you see the difference when you actually live this culture. Because they can't. They're reading an instruction manual. They don't have the tools to apply it. They're not even working with the same equipment. This is specific to a culture, to a specific group of people. This is only to be applied to us. We are to govern the earth off of this moral compass. Again, it's a hard concept for people to understand. But before the decree bring forth, before the day passes the chaff, before the fierce anger of the Lord come upon you, this is talking about before the Most High come back. It's like before the Most High send Yahushua back. Before kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven, before everybody and their mama get wiped off the face of the earth, we need to practice this and apply these steps now.
Right.
We're also going to get into it's like, just to finish that off, before the day of the Lord's anger come upon you, seek ye the Lord. All ye, this is verse 3, seek ye the Lord, all ye meek of the earth, which have wrought his judgment. I only know of a handful of people that, of an adult age, more or less. Actually, only one captain that was born into the truth. That's an adult to this day.
Right.
We got a lot of brothers and sisters that have been born into this truth daily. There are a lot of young men, or young brothers and young sisters that were born into the truth and getting raised up into the truth. Who are being taught to seek the Lord. They're being taught that meekness so that they can avoid that judgment that we are guilty of.
Right.
Because every brother that I know, every sister that I know, we've done something against the law, and we deserve a judgment for it. So to filter this down to our children, so that when our children's children are born, they'll be born in a more structured environment. They'll be born, Lord allow, in the kingdom, to where they ain't got to worry about the pains and angers and angst that we've had to suffer, that we've been dealing with, that we've expressed to one another,
Right.
committing the crimes that we've done, and having knowledge of those crimes. They're never going to know what crack cocaine is. They're never going to see a heroin junkie.
Mm.
They're never going to have to. They're never going to have to sit down and talk with somebody who has been molested or raped or brought through the organizations of sex trafficking.
Right.
Those are going to be things of a dead past. But again, those people that are in those positions of power that set that forward, they're not going to just willingly give that up. That road need to get paid to bring us to a brighter future. But we need a moral compass. We need something, a foundation to establish on. That is this Bible. That is these records. And the holders of those records are the Israelites. That is going to be the authority on earth under Yahweh, under the Most High. And the ISUPK and Commander General Yohana lives this. If you got a different opinion about something, fine, you can bring it up. Let's talk about it. Let's work through it. You got some proof, you got some evidence. Just stop talking about the book of Enoch and Jasher and Jubilee, Baba Kushak. That's just a personal request. And equinoxes and just all this other weird stuff. But seek righteousness, seek meekness. It may be ye shall be hid in the day of the Lord's anger. So that you ain't got to suffer the same punishments that we deserve.
Right.
Born into a world where you ain't got to experience that. You ain't got to have that knowledge of good and evil.
Right.
You'll just have the knowledge of good.
There you go. That's right.
And isn't that ultimately what everybody wants? I mean, that sounds pretty positive to me.
Right.
I don't know about everybody else. That sounds pretty good to me. That we ain't got to know about all these things anymore. That we ain't got to experience it. Our kids ain't gonna have to live through that. Hell, y'all kids ain't gonna have to live through that. And it's like up to the other nations, to the heathen nations. Their kids ain't gonna have to live with that either, unless they doing it to themselves in their households. But that's gonna come with a swift judgment also.
Right.
Because that those things are outlined clearly in these records, in this book of the law, as to not be abided by and not to be tolerated.
Right.
This world has gone loose, and unfortunately it did take all this, because this is these conditions are prophetic also. It took all this to really revive that spirit of Israel, to come back to the Lord.
Right.
Because now, again, with the technology and the way that they can record history and current events and all that, it's almost impossible to erase the visual stimulants that are displayed in the media and I mean not only social media but movies, all over Facebook, YouTube, and the music, and pop culture, and goddamn, they're making books.
Right.
Like, some of the children's books nowadays are an abomination, man. I've been talking about transgenderism and normalizing homosexuality. I got two dads, I got two moms, like sir.
Yeah, they actually have so-called drag queens or transsexuals actually coming into the school system the schools to actually teach about those things. And also too, they're taking out of the school, which is called critical race theory. All right. They're trying to disguise and not speak about the trauma and the horrors of the true history of Black and Hispanic people. Now, also too, as of recent, they're trying to implement Asian history very strong for whatever reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, they have an agenda. And also too, you can't talk about race when it comes to a certain race. You can't talk about certain history when it comes to history pertaining to a certain race. Otherwise, you will get in trouble, otherwise kicked out of the school system.
Okay. and there's so much more consideration taken for them and their needs and their feelings and their sociological standpoint or classification than ours.
Right.
And we're giving that same consideration to them over our own.
Mm-hmm.
When in Luke, if you go to chapter 6, verse 31, it says, and as ye would that men should do to you, do ye also to them likewise. Now you got people out there that aren't going to do the right thing according to the law. Now, not to be too, I guess, finite with the outline of what the law is. If somebody prefers the color blue over the color red, nothing wrong with that. If somebody prefers beef over chicken or fish, that's fine. The law states no pork. The law states no effeminate men.
Right.
Homosexuality, lesbianism.
Right.
The color purple, the color pink, there's nothing wrong with those colors. But if you look at the history and the reputation that they've been given, it's just a better thing just to kind of stay away from a little bit. But again, you got an organization that put a stain on that color, damn it, and that's supposed to be a holy priestly color.
Mm-hmm.
You got brothers in the school that bring the masculinity back to it. That brings strength back to that.
Right.
So I mean, ain't nothing wrong with colors. Ain't nothing wrong with certain foods. I don't really care for jerk chicken. Salaki.
Mm-hmm.
Salaki to the school. Salaki to the men of bum. Other brothers do. Other sisters do. Ain't nothing wrong with that. We're still keeping the law. You got people that might have to slave on the Sabbath. That don't wear fringes on every damn thing that they own.
Mm-hmm.
That cook on the Sabbath. That turn the lights on the Sabbath. And you got some people that think that is wrong, that's breaking the law. That's not what we're talking about, because those are not scriptural. Leave it to the priests and prophets of the UPK to break down what the law is and what the law is not. Leave the clarification up to us. If there's a point that you want to argue, please bring it to the table. You're more than welcome. It doesn't have to be a debate necessarily. If you want that, you can do that too. But if you just want to talk about the points and just try to iron it out, that's also fine.
Right.
But don't be so headstrong as to start jumping on YouTube or social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, going all types of crazy, talking about what you can and cannot do based off of your own knowledge and your studies. Because I don't even know what kind of people are out there. It seems like there's some hybrids between Old Testament,
flat earthers, can't eat meat,
vegans, vegan Israelites like that are like strict on that. Oh, it's weird. It's like
individualites
even better. Again, free willites. They're pushing the criteria farther and farther back, thinking that they're bringing it closer and closer and closer to the truth, but they're pushing it farther and farther and farther away. Mm-hmm. So where you get all these different designations and denominations within the nation of Israel that should not exist. That demon that overthrew all those priests and them brothers who he knew Jesus. He knew Paul. He did not know them.
Not Asmodeus.
Asmodeus
is an apocrypha with Tobit.
But this story, the story is in the New Testament.
The New Testament?
I believe so. It's like the son of the Shivas, whatever that is.
It's not Asmodeus. Asmodeus is somebody different.
But there was a brother that had a demon on him.
Yeah,
Some people try to exercise it.
Yeah.
They got the ass whooped.
Yeah.
But he recognized the authority of Yahweh Shai and like the brother Paul. Because they were one body. They were of the one body of Christ. They were in the truth. You got a lot of people, you got more people outside of the truth than you got in the truth. And that's what makes it hard for a lot of people to dissect and disseminate, you know, who's got the truth. ISUPK is home with the truth. We got 100% truth.
Mm-hmm.
You got every other organization, like nobody else will make that statement. Because it's so bold and because it's so provocative that, I mean, how could you know everything? If you never, and this is like, for me, this is like the heartbreaking part of it, because like, I wish y'all could understand it. I wish y'all could share in this with us. If you never sat down with Commander General Yahan, General Mahine, Captain Malquad, if you've never actually, if you never labored amongst these men, you got to know the brothers that you was laboring amongst. Right. You will never understand what this is.
That's right.
And the severity that we need to go to keep this right. So when we call them break-off groups bastards, that's what they are, because they turn their back on the truth. When we call our oppressor the goddamn devil that the Bible speaks of, it's because of thy violence against thy brother Jacob.
Right.
It's not for no reason. When we brush aside the consideration for all these heathen nations, it's because they did it to us too. And now is not the time to focus on everybody else. We need to bring that attention and that love and that consideration back home, which is why we need to gather together.
Right.
And seek out the Lord. And even though you got people that should be nice to you, that should keep the law in consideration to you and your kind, your family, that don't do it, you still need to. You might be angry with a brother or a sister. You might want to commit acts of violence, but in the spirit of perfecting brotherhood and sisterhood, even if they are being wicked, you do not transgress the law against them. If anything, you should be working to bring them closer to it, because they might be in fault, and you might be somebody who can reinvigorate that zeal and that spirit to be right, to come back home, man. And it takes a lot. It takes a lot of effort to do that. It takes a lot of understanding and wisdom and self-control and discipline to make a move like that towards somebody that might want you dead. King David did it with Saul. King David was being hunted. Him and his men, the brothers that followed him, were being hunted also by another army under a ruler who was ordained by the Most High. Now, King David understood that, and he wished no ill will against that man. That's why at the end of it, when Saul fell, and that Edomite chopped off his head and presented it to King David, talking about he slain him for him, like he slayed Saul for King David. King David did not want no harm to come to that brother because he was the Lord's anointed. Right. So what reward did that Edomite get? King David put him to death because Saul was not to be touched. King David showed an enormous amount of brotherhood, and like to the extreme, to the point where David would have been right because his life was in danger to kill Saul. He wouldn't have been transgressing all that, wouldn't have been murder because he was being pursued. But his zeal for brotherhood and his respect for the Most High's anointing ceased all that. And he taught that to his people. Those who followed him, who would rather have had him just end Saul and be done with it and get put up on that throne. David wasn't selfish like that. Right. And I mean, he wasn't being soft about it either. Again, like when they call him Ruddy, this is almost a different class breakdown on that note. But all right, he was a pretty boy. You know, he came from I would say like all his brothers before him were you know they were like, you know, maybe bigger, brawny, tough guys. He didn't come out that way. So
You saw King David?
kind of thing.
Okay, I know you say pretty boy.
With the Ruddy.
I'll say Ruddy. Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to. Yeah, I would say Ruddy. So I mean, yeah, Ruddy. I mean, a lot of people might have a different definition for it. You know, Ruddy just means, you know, someone that's young. You know what I mean? Someone that's young in age, but like, you know, like you said, like a pretty boy, someone just fresh, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
And maybe at that age, his beard didn't fully grow in.
Right, there you go. Yeah.
You know, looking all young and innocent.
Yeah, there you go.
Top of the giant. An ugly bastard. He understood warfare, though. He understood kindness. He understood rulership. He understood leadership. He understood brotherhood.
Right.
And he practiced it. He exercised it. When that devil had come to him with Saul's head, that was his brother. And that devil got rewarded with his head getting chopped off. Because that's what we should be doing for each other. Willing to go that extra mile. Even if they hate us. Even if they're not going to keep the law towards us. We should still be keeping the law towards them. Now again, that don't mean be a punk. If somebody coming at you sideways, correct it. If somebody coming at you with violence, defend yourself. Protect your family. But you got people going out there looking for it. You got B&Es happening in, you know, the nice neighborhoods. You know, brother from the ghetto going uptown, robbing somebody rich. Coming back home, promoting drugs, violence in the ghetto with his neighbors, with his brothers, with his family. You know, he might rob somebody else, you know, breaking into somebody else's house uptown, but he might pistol whip you and take the last $5 that you owe him from
Right.
2-3 years ago.
Right.
The problems that we got amongst each other are so much more volatile than the majority of the actions that we do outside of our neighborhoods, outside of our nation.
Right.
We tend to bring all that hatred right here to where we live, which is why you got to watch your back when you go back home, because you don't know who's in the cup. You don't know if you still got beef with somebody. You know, you had a bad relationship with a sister, and now her cousins and her uncles and her brothers, you know, they waiting for it. Drug deal going wrong, and that includes weed. Again, people want to think weed is such an innocent thing. Niggas get killed over weed, man.
Every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Every day. There was a brother in Milwaukee who ended up getting murdered over a drug deal, but it was over a different drug, but the invitation, the conversation started was weed.
Right.
That's what got him into the house. That's how that got popped off. So, I mean, when we talk about weed is unlawful, as innocent as they want to make it seem to be today, just listen to what they said. Listen to the law and the decree that was given by men that are wiser and more experienced. That's part of that meekness. Now, people might want to argue, well, it doesn't sound like we're being meek. When again, in reality, you just don't know the truth. You don't know how to compare that. Every nation needs a leader. Every nation needs a structured governing body. That's what the UPK is for Israel. And again, if you don't like it, you know, drop a note in the comment box or suggestion box.
Right.
And maybe one day we'll get to it. I don't know.
Right.
Luke chapter 6, verse 32. For if ye love them which love you, what thank have you? If people are being nice to you, and you're being nice to them, and you're living harmoniously, don't pat yourself on the back just yet. It's a good thing that you're doing, absolutely. I ain't gonna take away from that. But don't sit there and try to put yourself on high because you're being nice to people that are being nice to you.
Right.
For sinners also love those that love them. You got whole communities of, criminal enterprises. Rapists and child molesters, they converse with one another. They have an affinity for one another. They got a common goal. They got a common interest. It's like,
There you go. That was perfect. They have a common goal and a
right,
common interest, meaning that they are in the same spirit.
right.
You know what I mean? Homosexuals, whether you're a child molester or rapist, and things of that sort, they have the same spirit. So yeah, that and the words that you just used was very, very, very important and very much on point. Absolutely, Con. It's like I gotta get in.
Because they might not have that conventional love for each other, but again, with those common interests and common goals, they're gonna look out for each other, which is love.
Sickness, man, sickness.
And it absolutely, yes.
Sexual deviancy.
Sexual deviancy to the max. Yeah. And that's been proliferated in this society. In shared societies all over the world. That's why you got them human trafficking rings going from America to South America to Ukraine and Asia and Russia and Europe and all over the place. Sexual deviancy, self-will, selfish will, not free will, because the Lord never authorized that. He never gave a clearance from none of that shit. But you got people taking advantage of the society that's in play because they are, again, like-minded. They have a common goal. They have a common interest. Some people want to argue the concept of a rape culture in America, when that's damn near what this country has been founded on. I don't care if on paper they say rape is illegal, and some people go to jail because they committed that crime and raped somebody, and they got caught. You got high-ranking officials in public offices, and people behind closed doors in secret that run everything from behind that curtain. Where rape is, and molestation and cannibalism and homosexuality is prolific and accepted. So now they love each other. They're gonna look out for each other. Those are sinners, knowing that what they're doing is evil and disgusting. But because again, they have a like mind, they got similar goals, and like they'll stab each other in the back too. I mean, what's that to them? They're already raping 3-year-olds and eating, human flesh. What's it to them to stab somebody else in the back where they can gain their prosperity? They can take over, all of their goals and all their riches and all that. For sinners also love those that love them. Your Creflo Dollar's, what's that one dude name? And we were just talking about it too. We were just talking about it, man. And people can't survive.
TD Snakes, Joe Osteen.
Not Joe Osteen.
Dollar.
That dude.
Is he a black so-called black leader?
It's like a lot. He get him like one of them older.
Eddie Long.
No.
He died of heart attack.
No, but Eddie Long's a brother though.
Yeah, he was.
This guy's an Edomite, running one of them big churches, been in it for a long ass time.
You talking about Joe Osteen in Texas?
No, older than him. It's a popular ass. I can't think of it.
Okay, is he down south?
Down south. that name's gonna bug me. But he's very well known. He's been in the game, hustling and busting down for a long time. One of those televangelists. So like I gotta look this up. So like,
Okay. No, go ahead.
um, what is his name? Kenneth Copeland.
Oh,
Kenneth Copeland.
okay.
His weirdo ass.
Yeah.
This guy's so creepy. Like some of the interviews that I've seen with him, and then again, if you look up like his background, like there's discrepancies in his record, along with all these fake preachers. But they get love from the people.
Mm-hmm.
They're sinners, but they get love from the people. So now you're somebody that doesn't sin. You're getting love from the people. You got sinners that are getting love from the people. Let's go back to this. This was in Luke. So with that, it's almost I don't want to say generic, but a general expression like, all right, so you're loving people, you're receiving love from them. These sinners are loving people, quote unquote, and they're getting love too.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reward in that,
Right.
and you shouldn't expect to get get praised for it. Again, don't pat yourself on the back so soon. Luke 6:33. And if ye do good to them which do good to you, what thank have you? For sinners also do even the same. They give money out too. They got some food and clothing programs, and they got some donations and grant programs. Charity is a law. That's something that we're supposed to do also, looking out for the widow and for the orphan.
Right.
And for those that are hungry and destitute.
Right.
If a brother, it's like how's that scripture go? If he fall in decay with thee, take up for him. It's deeper than just giving them the last $5 in your pocket and thinking that you did something good. It's, damn, all I got is $5 cash. I wish I could give more, brother. I hope this helps you out. It's sincerity that needs to be applied to it also in anything that you're doing. But again, if you do good to them, which do good to you, what thank have you?
Mm-hmm.
That's like the bare minimum. That's like the skim of the top of the criteria that we're supposed to be following. Shouldn't be any perceived reward in that, but you get a lot of people out there that want to come off to the public like. So
I got a precept.
About yourself.
Done. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 6. Not with eye service as men pleasers, but as the servants of Christ, doing the will of God from the heart.
Doing the will of God from the heart.
Mm-hmm.
It's a deeper consideration. It's not for the fame and for the glory,
right?
Because you're seeing somebody going through something, and listen, you might be struggling too,
right?
But that last little bit, like, maybe it'll help them out more than what you need. Maybe you was just gonna spend on some McDonald's,
right?
Now maybe they was gonna spend on some McDonald's too, but now maybe they haven't eaten in 3 days. Maybe they had a couple kids they was gonna split a couple burgers with.
Right.
Versus you just like, I'm a little hungry, I just want a snack, let me just stop off here. It's the consideration behind it, the intention behind it is that's talking more about the spirit of brotherhood. and the spirit of sisterhood. It's not just what you're doing, on the surface, so that people from the outside can see that, you're contributing, you're donating, you're, giving to a better cause, you're protesting, you're fighting a good fight and all that, and your picture gets taken and you're posting it all over Facebook and YouTube. Now, when we hold our like food and clothing drive, it's to show what this body does. It's to show the unity that we have and the extent that we go to as a nation to, again, to express and to exercise, facilitate that brotherhood, that spirit of brotherhood and sisterhood to everybody from the outside looking in. They need to see it in action, and they need to see it that it's consistent, because it hadn't stopped since '69. Hadn't stopped when the split happened in the '90s. Under the leadership of Commander General Yohana, it's only grown. And everybody else that split off and ran away, again, talking all that brotherhood and sisterhood and prosperity and how we got to separate and how we got to, keep the laws, blah, 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 blah. You see the declination that their organizations have had over the years.
Right.
And you've seen the rise in the strengthening of this one body of Christ, which is the ISUPK under Commander General Yohana. Ain't no wrong with that. Every nation needs a leader. Until Yahushua come back, Commander General Yohana is the man. And people think that we're putting him on like some type of pedestal. Y'all niggas worship him more than y'all think we do. With your hatred for him.
Hey.
That's messed up. Y'all need to think about that. Y'all need to think about that. That brother took on a burden that nobody else, I don't get too loud, nobody else was willing to. Nobody else was stable enough to. Nobody else had the consideration and the care to do that. Commander General Yohana, a handful of some other hard-headed brothers, they had the fortitude to do it. They had the discipline to do it. They had the faith to do it. Everybody else left.
Right.
So when we talk about the leader of our nation, rightfully so, for the sacrifices that he made and the brothers and sisters that he raised up, that he brought up out the dust, that he trained other brothers and sisters to go fish for. Y'all need to just get in the class. At least gather together. If you're in a location where one of these cookouts is popping off, come to the cookout, man.
Right.
Come join your brothers. It's a beautiful environment. Something that I wish everybody knew and could experience. And it's unfortunate a lot of people are going to turn their back on it. But now that also brings us to Matthew, and I think this will be our closing scripture. Matthew, I want to start 5:44, and then we're going to jump to Matthew 10. But it's something that a lot of people just overlook and selfishly. It's something that when they accuse everybody else of doing, but they don't put it into practice. Yeah, they talk about unity, they talk about brotherhood, they talk about the Most High, and I was supposed to keep the laws, but then they distort the truth, and they got a following with it. You got people swearing that they speak in Lachemon Kodash, but studying the Yiddish to try to make their assertions right. And you got all these teachers. You got all these teachers, man. You got all types of teachers that haven't been taught, that left home, and even let's say for a second, let's just imagine for a second that they actually had the truth. Where are they? I don't care about none of them. Y'all have heard of Commander General Yohana. Y'all have heard of the ISUPK.
Right.
I don't know none of these other niggas' names, man.
Right.
And I ain't supposed to, man. Like when I first started seeing about the school, like there was a couple other schools out there too that looked good, but they didn't hit as hard. A lot of us have seen or may have been introduced to the truth from well, from a generic source that brought us home. Because I mean, the majority of the brothers that I know that came to it in a roundabout way, we had to filter everything else out. Trying to get to the source of the truth. That always comes back to the UPK. For brotherhood and sisterhood religions, if you want to perfect that, you need to exercise it. You want to understand how to exercise it. You need to get taught what's wrong and right in your spirit and the principles of it, what's right and wrong in the law, so that you can apply it to your life.
That's
so you can teach it to your children, so you can express it to your brothers in your community, even brothers and sisters that are still in the world, that are outside the truth. Again, we should still do unto them that we would have them doing to us. It's still, from the inside out, giving that love, showing that consideration. You ain't got to be best friends if it's just not like that. You ain't got to invite them to your cookout. You should always keep your door open. If there's something that you can do for a brother or sister that's lacking in needs and resources, if you're able to do it, you should. Don't be bashful about it. Don't hold that to yourself. And especially if you got the truth, do not keep that to yourself. That is a selfish and horrible approach. And that is against the law. That is against the brotherhood. All right, we're gonna keep this going real quick. We got a few minutes left. A few scriptures. Matthew chapter 5, verse 44. But I say unto you, love your enemies. Bless them that curse you. Do good to them that hate you. And pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you.
That's right.
Now, bring that back. Is this again in the Christian church, Muslim mosque, Catholic diocese? I don't know if that's the right phrase. We're out there. Your atheist Girl Scout clubs, whoever's out there. This is philosophically what everybody's kind of trying to bring. Hinduism, Buddhism, Rastafarian, love your enemies. Peace and love. Peace and love. Tell that victim to go love their rapist. Explain that to them. I don't know how and why they're supposed to do that. Make that make sense to them.
Right.
That young man, that young woman whose mother and father just got murdered right in front of them. Break down how they're supposed to love their father and mother's murder. Make that make sense to them. Use all types of psychology tricks and drugs and electroshock therapy, because you're going to need all of that plus some. You're going to have to brainwash them for that to make sense. Because what this is talking about, and we're going to get the precept for it in Matthew chapter 10. We have become each other's enemies. This is where the focus needs to be. When you're going over north in Minneapolis, or when you're going over south, when you're on the east side of St. Paul, and you're living amongst your people, those are the main people you have negative interactions with. There's not a whole lot of racial discourse, except for our oppressors' boot on our necks. We're not fighting the KKK. We're not fighting the corrupt police departments. And we're not telling anybody to pick up a gun either. That ain't how this is going to get won.
Right.
We're not fighting against the and I'm just going to be stereotypical for a minute. We're not fighting against the triad, right, or the Yakuza, right? Some other Asian, organized crime or gang or whatever that is. NPs are fighting against Latin kings. Gangster disciples are fighting against vice lords. Crips are fighting against Bloods. These are predominant Black and Hispanic gangs. Same thing is happening on the reservation. Same thing is happening up there. We are fighting with each other. We are each other's enemies that these scriptures are talking about. And we're going to bring it home with Matthew chapter 10. We're going to start at verse 35. Matthew chapter 10, verse 35. For I am come to set a man at variance against his father, and the daughter against her mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. These, keeping this law, keeping these standards, keeping this custom, this culture, is going to make enemies in our own families with those who would rather celebrate Christmas and Thanksgiving and birthdays and Happy New Year's and 4th of July. They wanted you to come to that Labor Day barbecue. The Lord wanted you to celebrate, to attend the memorial of the blowing of the trumpets.
Right.
That's going to set you at variance with your family members because you choose to follow the truth versus them following heathen customs. Verse 36. And a man's foes shall be of his own household. That's the enemy that is talking about we need to love. It's us. You know, that whole love thy neighbor thing, the whole love thy enemy thing. We are our own foes. 9 out of 10 times it starts at home. You got gangs that were damn near established because of beef between family members.
Mm-hmm.
That took on a whole different life and culture of its own. Generational, the murders, the crimes being committed between each other has escalated to the point where they feel comfortable labeling all Mexicans as criminals and rapists. Because all blacks is super predators. With that the racist titles of nigger, spick, and wetback and savage connotate a criminal mentality and characteristic. We've become so violent, again, predominantly amongst each other. They want to talk about the crimes that are being committed from ethnic groups against so-called Caucasians. It doesn't happen as much as you might think. There's a lot of statistics that do support it about how more minorities are raping so-called white people than white people raping so-called minorities. That's not even the point, even if those numbers are true. I don't trust in a lot of the respective stats that they bring out, but it's still worth some more research, but it's a stagnant point. This country has a history of hate crimes and war crimes against our people. We are not to react the same way that they've treated us to them.
Right.
More importantly, to each other, which is where we bring all that hatred back to. We bring it all back home. We bring it all back to the south side of Milwaukee, to the west side of Chicago. We bring it all back to Detroit and St. Louis. We bring it all back to where we rest our heads, to where our neighborhoods are no longer in peace. And we become foes with each other. These are the enemies that we are built to love, that we are supposed to love. The only way that we are going to get out of this oppression is with brotherhood. That brotherhood is going to establish the foundation that this kingdom needs to get rested on. We're only going to do that through following these law, statutes, commandments. We can rebuild brotherhood by not stealing from each other, not murdering each other, not messing with each other's women. Some of those simple 10 commandments that everybody in the mountain been talking about for the last some odd 1,000 years. And it's a hard thing to get over some of the drama that we've had, some of the problems that we've had between each other, it's a hard thing to get over. I understand. But you got to learn how to let that carnality go. Forgive that brother, forgive that sister. Again, you ain't got to be best friends. Give it some time. That might heal them. And you'll see the virtues between each other. That we can what's the word I'm looking for? That we can build on. That we can group together. You know, somebody might be a cold painter. Somebody might be good with auto work. You know, you can combine those skill sets. And I mean, you damn got an enterprise right there alone, like the low riders, all that. I mean, somebody who can chop down the car versus teaming up with somebody who can bomb that car. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a beautiful thing when like minds and when like minds and rare skill sets come together and we can collaborate. That's what I was looking for. But it's going to start with brotherhood. That needs to be the foundation and the focus versus everybody loves everybody. We need to heal the problems within our communities first before we can even consider what everybody else needs when they've got governments and armies and all types of resources for them to rely on while we getting the crumbs from their leftovers. Support Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian businesses. You know, a lot of people want to talk about how it's a money issue. There's enough money in the ghettos. We know this because of the prolific exposés about drug dealers and you know in the hip hop game and throughout the music and movies. We can see the culture that breeds and the criminal mentality that breeds. Money is not the problem. Now, ain't nothing wrong with having some money, but you gotta use the right ways. According to the scriptures, money can be a defense, but that can also be the ruler of all evil. You gotta get taught the right and the wrong way, or like it's like you gotta get taught what's right and what's wrong, and how to handle those situations. That's only gonna come from the ISUPK. It's a grandiose statement. I get it. Everything that you need to know about life, how to get right, how to come back home, how to fix your people, you're gonna find it in the Bible. You can only get taught about the Bible through the priests and prophets of the UPK, the commanding general. And with that, pay your tithes. Day of Atonement's coming up next Wednesday. Get in contact with the school near you. Again, it's better to be with your brothers and sisters while we're all going through this at the same time, all across the board. Not saying that you can't do it by yourself. Again, you might have to be on the plantation while you're doing the Day of Atonement. That's going to be a tough thing to go through because probably ain't nobody else going to be there with you. There's a couple brothers in Chicago that work with each other. So if they got a slave on that same day, working the same shift, they'll at least have them, you know, to back each other up. But if you got that day off, you ain't got to work, contact the school, get in contact with them brothers near you, and feed off of that struggle. What comes up after the Feast of Atonement?
Yes,
Day of Atonement.
it's going to be the Feast of Tabernacles.
Feast of Tabernacles coming up to close off September.
Yeah, it's going to be Monday, September 20th through the 28th.
Now there you go. So to close out September, again, get in contact with the school ahead of time. See how you can participate. See what where you can contribute. See if there's anything you might need to be involved. Maybe you need a ride. Maybe you just need a flyer. Maybe you just want to know about it. Get in contact with that school near you and see how you can get involved. With that, we're going to get into the security announcements. You got the ISUPK started out on 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Rule for new brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they're off limits for 6 months. They're to be saluted on. They're here to shut themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There's another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6-month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. You can find it in Numbers chapter 18, verse 21, and Malachi chapter 3, verses 8 through 10. Means tenth in the Hebrew, ma'ashur. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, give to the treasury department and teacher. So you can still go to isupk.com, scroll down to the donate now button. You can pay your tithes and make donations that way. If you have the Zelle app, ISUPK is the first name, or it's like Israelite School is the first name, UPK is the last name, tithes at isupk.com is the email. You can pay tithes and donations there. Otherwise, again, get in contact with the school near you. They might have the Zelle app, they might have the Cash app. If you're in the Twin Cities, Midwest, or if you're in China, I don't care where you are, you can go to in the Cash app, $ UPK Minnesota, all caps. Make donations that way. Don't pay your tithes here. Pay that to the two aforementioned resources. Again, free will offering for the priest, not mandatory, whatsoever amount you would like. Upcoming holy convocations. We got the Day of Atonement coming up September 15th at sundown. So that's Wednesday. That's next Wednesday at sundown until Thursday at sundown. So the 15th at sundown to the 16th at sundown. For 24 hours. No food, no drinks. Unless you are pregnant, a child of, an underage child that would be able to sustain this, or if you can't meet them qualifications, or if you're an elderly brother or sister, or if you take medications. Those are the only people that would be exempt from it. Everybody else, you should strengthen yourself up and get ready for that day, especially if you're of age. Take pride in it. After that, we got the Feast of the Tabernacles coming up to close off September. Get in contact with your school ahead of time and see what y'all need to work out for you to participate, or if there's any needs that you need to participate. Till then, if ever any brother wants to be a trooper in the school, start wearing all black. That means your boots, your shirt, your pant, your headband, and your scarf. With that, Israel, shalom, Yabashim Yishabrak, thumb to the brothers, Yahshua, Bashim, outside of the sisters. Shalom.
Shalom.